Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 815. It is trash day. My camera's out of focus. What's going on? It is trash day. I wonder if I hold a white paper. Sometimes when I worked in radio, when the TV guys came, they would put white paper, and the white paper would focus the camera. There, I think that worked. So it's trash day. The trash bins are at the curb. Did that last night. Look at me. I was super productive yesterday. Super freaking productive. Cheers to that. Delicious coffee this morning. Super productive yesterday. What day was it? Tuesday? Yeah, yesterday was Tuesday. I left the house. that was a goal in itself. Get the hell out of the house. I made 2 trips to the post office to drop off packages. I went to the grocery store. I sold a bulk lot. Shout out to Jim, who drove over from Milwaukee. So I sold a truckload of bulk, and I'm like, I'm gonna have in about a month, I'm gonna have another truckload. And he's like, oh boy. So we'll see. So I got rid of some bulk. That was good. Went to the house for the first time in a week, in 8 days actually. A lot of exterior work being done. It's been warm this week, which is good, although now it's snowing. But the landscape company was there, pulling out trees, pulling out bushes. The previous owner had let it go. And he was an elderly guy. But he didn't hire anybody to keep the lawn and keep the landscaping up. So it got out of control. So had to do a lot of stuff. So a lot of that was pulled. I mean, the house looks like the right now, compared to the neighborhood, it looks like the house from The Burbs, the bad one. That's where we're at. And it's turning into another 80s classic, The Money Pit. So that's where we're at. Who do we have in the chat? We've got Jeremy. What's up? Good morning. Great discussion last night. Thank you. What Jeremy is referencing, Ty Wilson and I had a little eBay class last night where we just shared our tips, tricks, and what's great with Ty and I is we have a lot in common when it comes to selling on eBay and just how we approach business. But we also differ on a few things, which is cool. He's a big auction guy. I hate auctions as a seller. Hate them. What else? Ty is big on bulk labels. No, it doesn't save me any time. I don't do bulk labels. Print them out one at a time. Saves me headaches doing that. So while we differ on a few things, we share a lot in common in terms of running a card selling business. So it was a lot of fun. Our chat was, we couldn't even answer. The chat was fast and furious, was awesome. That's what we wanted. That was the goal. Unfortunately, since it was so hopping, we couldn't answer many of the questions that were asked. So we will do it again. So I'm excited for that. He was using for the first time Restream, which I've never been on any podcast that's used that I can think of that's used Restream, which is pretty cool. And I probably have somebody's going to point out, oh yeah, you did this podcast on Restream. I may have, but it was the first time that I realized it. So we will do it again. It was a lot of fun. So thanks to everybody who watched and joined in. I kind of geeked out at one point. Glendon Rush, former big league pitcher, former Chicago Cub, Glendon Rush, was in the chat. So that was really cool. I had to geek out when I saw his name pop up and make a comment. So shout out to Glendon Rush. And he is a collector. So thank you, Jeremy. Ed, what's up? Good morning. Which also, piggybacking off of last night, there were so many things we didn't even touch. I had I had a page of notes. So Ty sent over, he's like, here's like 5 talking points. And okay, we hit that one. So supplies, like the supplies that I use, we hit that. I guess we hit those. Okay, we hit that. So there were 2 things that I actually wrote the most notes about that guess what topic we didn't touch on. You'll never guess. If you've been watching this program, scaling up your business. We did not. And I had a great comment that I wanted to make, but I'm going to save it. I can't just bury it in Hobby Evolution monologue talk. I had a great analogy for scaling up your business. Stay tuned. You're never going to hear about scaling up your business. And then I did touch on, and I didn't go too much into it. Actually, a couple points that I wrote down toward the end of the program last night. I talked about transitioning from part or side hustle to full time, and I went into that a little bit. Basically, when I approached like replacement level, I treated, when it was a side hustle selling cards, I treated it like a business. And that's how I started to scale up and go and make that jump to full time. And then I did touch on the second. So we actually did most of what I had written down in my notes. I guess now looking at it, we did touch on scaling. There was just some points on scaling that I didn't talk about. Because I talked about extrapolating the numbers, and I bored everyone to tears with my spreadsheet. But I talked about extrapolating the numbers and don't how did I can't remember how I put it, but basically that's one mistake I made when I went full time. Actually, before I went full time was my projections. I was a little too optimistic on my daily sell-through rate. When I extrapolate those numbers out, it's like, okay, this is how much I can list if I get to 50,000 listings based on this sell-through rate, this per dollar sale. This is what my gross income is going to be. And I missed the mark on sell-through rate, because once you scale, and that's something I learned fast. Say you are in when before I went in, I was at 1.2%. As I made the transition, I was at a 1.2% daily sell-through rate, which, man, if I was at a 1.2% daily sell-through rate, I would never sleep because I'd be shipping all day. But I would I would be in a much better place. I mean, we all would, and I've shared my sell-through rate. It's around 0.36. It's probably closing in on 0.4% because I haven't been listing as much, but I think I haven't ran mine yesterday. I think it was 0.37%. So it's between 0.35 and 0.4%. So basically a third of where I was before I went full-time. My projections, I ran my projections at 0.7% sell-through rate. So I'm 50% of what my projections were. So I didn't take into account that sell-through rate is going to fall dramatically once you're listing. If your volume listing, outpaces your sell-through rate. If you're listing 1,000 cards, even 100 cards a day, say you're only selling your sell-through rate is 10 or 20 cards a day. It's going to take a hit when you're listing, if you go from listing 50 cards a day to 200 a day. So there's going to be some, when you run those numbers, it's going to be skewed a little bit. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And I look forward to another program that we do. What's up? Ed is in the house. Good morning, Ed. We've got Brian here. What's up, Brian? Harlan in the house. Harlan was with us last night. Johnny Boy Cards is here. Victor is here. Sal Dougie, what's up? Steve Ains Comedy, good morning. What does he say? What's Steve say? Happy Ash Wednesday. Get your ashes in gear, right? Get those ashes in gear. Kyle, what's up? Good morning. Good talk with Ty. It amazes me how different yours and his perspectives are. There you go. Yes. Yeah, both work on eBay. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, and I don't think we talked about this because Ty actually shared with me. We were on the Chasing Cardboard channel. And he shared with me kind of the demographics, and the chasing cardboard channel skews a little younger than like my channel does. My channel hits that 35 to 45, and I know there's some outliers that are under those age, under that age, over that age. But I would say probably a majority of the viewers are in that, 35, maybe 35 to 50. I think there's probably some in that age range. I wonder what I haven't actually looked at my numbers on viewership. Let's take a look at that. Instead of just throwing out random numbers. Audience. Okay. Because I like to nerd out. So I actually have more 13 to 24-year-olds watching than I thought, and it's 1.7%, which I thought it would be probably less than 1%. But so 1.7% between the ages of 13 and 24. 25 to 34 is a bigger representation than I expected. 12.4% are between the ages of 25 and 34. 35 to 44. So that's the demographic that I said is going to be a majority, and it is. 41.4% of my viewers on this channel are between the ages of 35 and 44, which is right smack dab. I'm 40. I'm a man. So that's right smack dab in my age demographic, and that's kind of what I expected. Because I talk about like my life experiences as a kid in the late 80s, early 90s, where other 35 to 44-year-olds can relate. 45 to 54 is way up there, 34.2%. So basically 35 to 55 is going to make up almost 80% of my viewership, 35 to 55. And then 55 to 64 is actually more than I expected, 10.3% of my viewers on this channel, 55 to 64, 0.0% in the 65 and up category. So sometimes I find those numbers amusing. So the viewership on Chasing Cardboard, I understand, skews a little younger, and the approach in sales is going to be different by generation. In fact, every one of those demographics, there's going to be, a majority are going to be, think this way and think that way. And that's what makes life. So the fun thing is, in bouncing off of what Kyle says, in terms of amazing how your perspectives are, but both work on eBay. And those are just two of many strategies to having success selling on eBay. And this is just within cards. There's so many categories out there. I started chatting with somebody on Facebook, and I think they found me through one of the Facebook groups and wanted to bounce some ideas. And they run 4 basically superstores in 4 different categories. And, that's one way to go about it. And, there's other, I'm in this tunnel of baseball cards and football cards and basketball cards. And then outside of this tunnel is hockey and soccer. Okay. And then other categories that you can sell, like anything. Well, most anything. But also within the trading card space, like there's so many ways to make money and make a living selling trading cards. You can be Mr. Low End and sell $1.50 cards with free shipping. You can take on consignments, and that's part of Ty's business, consignments. Buying collections, and Ty does a lot of that through Chasing Cardboard, buying collections. Flipping. You could go to a card show and buy, spend $1,000 and turn and put that on eBay and maybe make $500, $300, depending on what you buy. You might take a loss. Who knows? You can make a living through grading, through buying raw and, knowing what you're doing, gemming out and making a ton of money by grading. And then you can take consignments on grading. I mean, there's just, it's the opportunities are almost endless when it comes to making a living in this space. And I love it. And I like to hear, even though those other things are not my cup of tea, I enjoy listening to how other people handle and run their businesses. And just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it can't work. I mean, there's not just one way to do this and do it successfully and make a good living. Paige and Deanie Bean, what's up? Good morning. Dean and Andrew in the house. What is up? Andrew says, Ed, great job on that 70s card show. Yes, Ed. By the way, speaking of that, Ed was on with John, our friend John, that 70s card show, and they talked about, was it 73 tops? So Ed mentioned, or John mentioned, one of the two mentioned in that conversation about like the greatest baseball players, which led me to my tweet, which was a direct, I just stole it from their conversation, the idea. And the other day I tweeted my 3 all-time greatest baseball players. It generated a lot of discussion. Some people, did not agree with me. Some people did. Some people had slightly different. My greatest baseball players of all time, my rankings, my opinion, it's not wrong, and your opinion's not wrong either. You may not agree with me. I may not agree with you, but neither of us are wrong. My opinion, greatest baseball players of all time. This is all around baseball, all around players. Number 1, I've got Barry Bonds. Number 2, Willie Mays. Number 3 may surprise you. And it surprised me when I first heard somebody mention the name in a conversation about the greatest baseball players of all time. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What the hell? That name, Rickey Henderson. The more I thought about it, the more I dove into the actual statistics of Rickey Henderson as a baseball player all around, opened my eyes. There was some great discussion generated through this, and I just want to pick apart some of the comments. One of the latest comments that I wanted to touch on was like Ted Williams is definitely on my short list. Like, you could put Ted Williams in there replacing Rickey Henderson. I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's good. It's not like, tomorrow my mind could change. And I'm like, you know what? Ted Williams is definitely in that top 3 for me, not Rickey Henderson or not Willie Mays or not Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds is definitely in that top 3 regardless. Probably Willie Mays also in that top 3 regardless. It's that third spot that I could probably throw in a number of players. So Cardboard Analytics on Twitter replied, based on counting stats and longevity or just absolute greatness, ? He goes on, no one can touch Ted Williams. The guy missed entire age 24, 25, 26 seasons, flying an F-9 Panther jet in World War II, and then missed age 33, 34 seasons for the Korean War. His stats would have 0 equal had he served. So, very honorable. Many guys did serve in World War II, in the Korean War, not discounting that, but the conversation has to be on what was accomplished, not any what ifs. And that's not by any means discounting military service. It was part of that era. And many of the greats during World War II and the Korean War served and missed Major League Baseball time during their peaks. But we can't go on what ifs. If you go on what ifs, then you start going down a rabbit hole of, well, what if Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't injured throughout his career? What if Mike Trout didn't miss for injury and the pandemic? What if Ken Hubbs wasn't killed in a plane crash? There's so many what ifs that we can't count what didn't happen. We have to look at what did happen. And unfortunately, some of these guys missed some of their primes for injuries or for for serving their country, which I shouldn't say unfortunately. So that was a comment that I thought was it does provoke Like, wow, it's a great point. It's completely accurate, but I want to go by what did happen. No what ifs. Another one was this was a great debate back and forth. I kind of engaged. Um, Sometimes I don't like engaging with these types of conversations because it can sometimes they can get ugly and people are like, oh no. This one didn't, but it could have. Making a case for the most underrated player ever, more gold gloves, hits, and a higher lifetime average by 13 percentage points than Bonds. He also had basically the same number of steals as Bonds. He did this while playing 300 less games and starting his career at 27 years old. Ichiro. So, this was a case of picking and choosing your numbers, which you can make numbers. You can make numbers. I won't say lie because numbers are what they are, but you can skew your arguments in favor or against by picking and choosing your numbers. And this was a case of that with Ichiro. So initially, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But I'm like, okay, I want to double check. I want to see what these numbers actually are. And I want to compare because I like to learn and I want to see how Barry Bonds and Ichiro did compare statistically. So when I went in, the first thing that opened my eyes was while Ichiro did play 300 less games, he had 100 more at bats than Barry Bonds. Now, we all know why. Most of us probably know why. Intentional walks. And then I looked at home runs and steals. Now, that's a big part of Barry Bonds' game. Home runs, which was glaringly omissed. Is that am I using that term correctly? Omission. But that was a not listed. So when we combine, let's combine home runs and steals. Okay. So that gives you a little bit of both worlds. You got the speed, you got the power, home runs and steals. In basketball, they now have stocks, steals and blocks. In baseball, we're going to call it stuns. I don't know. Home runs and steals. We'll just call it home runs and steals. Barry Bonds, 1,276 combined home runs and steals. Ichiro, 626. That is a huge disparity. So now now we're going to pick and choose again. And our friend on Twitter picked and chose his numbers. He says, come on. If we count Bonds' juicy numbers, then we count Ichiro's total professional numbers. But here we go. You have to look at what is in front of you. Juiced or not, we're either combining it all or you can't base your argument on batting average, hits and steals and completely ignore home runs and say, well, he was juiced on home runs, so we can't count those. Then why are you counting hits, steals, and average? Because those are going to be counted. So either if you want to say he was juiced, and we can just end the argument because I'm not gonna go back and forth if you're gonna just completely discount a player because you think he was on the juice. He probably was, but you can't count this stat and not that stat. It's either all or nothing when it comes to that. So, and I think that's kind of where the conversation kind of end. And I think if you're going to discount certain numbers, no reason to even make an argument. So that's what, it's like, if you're going to discount his home runs, you've got to discount all of his stats. And then there's no argument or conversation or discussion or whatever you call it. So thank you, Ed and John, because that was an eye-opener. Like, I think they talked about something either about the greatest baseball players or something similar. And so I knew that would generate some discussion, and I knew it would generate some probably controversy with my Ricky Henderson pick. And somebody did say something to the effect of, you don't know anything about baseball or something. It's just a troll. I looked, he had like 6 followers, and he didn't even follow me. So you don't engage. But there were some interesting picks, a lot of Willie Mays, a lot of Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, A-Rod was on a list. Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Barry Bonds. This guy says Henderson, not even close. I mean, I thought that too. Once you start looking at the numbers, like had I not looked into the numbers and thought about it, I would have said the same thing. But once I did a little bit, my friend Cooter, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, Ted Williams. I'm right there with you. I could totally. I'm like, yep, I'm there with you. Ted Williams. I mean, my Ricky Henderson pick is the weakest by far of my three, and you could insert a couple other guys in there, and I wouldn't have a problem. Let's see, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, and this guy adds a pitcher, Nolan Ryan. Let's see, another comment was Stan Musial, Bob Gibson, Cal Ripken Jr., Brooks Robinson, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. Let's see, Willie Mays, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams. Babe Ruth, I mean, I have a controversial take on Babe Ruth that I won't get into. But in terms of, I won't even go down that rabbit hole. Let's see. Where are we at? Barry Bonds, Kyle says Barry Bonds, Ted Williams, Willie Mays. Again, I could totally be on board with that. You don't even have to convince me. You don't even have to twist my arm on those three. Honorable mentions, Mantle, Aaron, A-Rod, Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. would be on my short list. A-Rod would be on my short list. My short list is getting long, though. And I mean, can you imagine if you go back to the what-ifs? We're not doing what-ifs. But what if, and look at A-Rod. He missed what? At least one full season due to, I know, juicing. But imagine. And then you could also say, well, what if he didn't juice? What would his numbers be if he didn't juice? There's a lot of what ifs. So that's why we don't even go down the what if rabbit hole. Let's see. Let's get back to the chat. David, good morning. Thank you. I appreciate that. Card Hobbyist, good morning. What's up? Clark, what's up? Good morning. Great show last night. I appreciate that. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Paul, what's up? Good morning. Herman is with us. What's happening? T206 says Glendon Rush lives outside of Louisville. Oh, I didn't know that. And I'm glad I didn't mention what's up La Cañada. He used to live in La Cañada, California. And the reason I can pronounce La Cañada and I don't say La Canada is because that's where the company I used to work for, that's where its headquarters, corporate office is. So I spent a week in La Cañada. When I met Glendon Rush for the first time at a Cubs convention, I was still working for the company, Allen Lund Company. The guy in front of me getting Glendon's autograph was talking about what he was up, and Glendon's like, oh, I live in La Cañada, California. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a connection. I can talk to Glendon about La Cañada. So, and I think I had actually been to La Cañada just a few months prior. Cause I think I went in, when did I go? September maybe of whatever year that was, 2014. And so, I told Glendon, I'm like, hey man, I work for Allen Lund Company. I was just out there a couple months ago. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I pass because the corporate office is right off the interstate. I can't remember what interstate that is. The Parkway. I think it's on the Parkway, but then the interstate's right there. So I didn't realize he had moved to Louisville. And I say it like a true Yankee, Louisville. See, Herman called me out for saying supper with a Southern accent. I say Louisville like a damn Yankee. Louisville. I know the proper pronunciation is Louisville. You just say it with as few vowels as possible. Louisville. The Thompsons, my last name is Thompson. The Thompson settled, I think, near Louisville in let's see, Hodge. Let's see, T206 kid, where are you at? You might be my relation. Based on how the Thompson procreated, I'm probably related to 75% of Kentucky residents. We had sometime I'll have to tell you about my great great grandfather, Curly Bill Thompson. He had like 27 kids. And there's I think it's like I think it's like a made up story because there's many stories of how Curly Bill was killed. And so he was he was fighting the I don't know the exact story. But he was against the Confederation. And so the story goes his I think his youngest daughter, I think her name was America. And like one of the stories is America, his daughter America, was sitting on his lap when Confederate soldiers came in and killed him. There's like 4 stories on like his death. Just depends on who's telling it, I guess. But anyway, so they were in that Louisville. They were in that area. Hodgenville, Hopkinsville, Hodgenville, because my grandfather, I think, was born Hodgenville. I think it was, yes, in LaRue County. So my kin come from Hodgenville, Kentucky, LaRue County. So that's where the Thompson eventually settled. I think they settled initially, came over from England. Thompsons came from, I think, England, like Scotland, England, and then settled in North Carolina. And then the next generation moved west to Hodgenville. And then I think my grandfather was born in Hodgenville, and then he made his way to Illinois. And the rest is history. Boston Smoke, what's up? Good morning. That's what she said. Who knows what that was in reference to by this point? I'm probably 30 minutes behind. Justin, my buddy Justin in the house. He wants to come over and sort cards. Justin and Herman, you're invited. Sort my Cubs cards. I told Justin the thought gives me anxiety. When am I coming over to help you sort all of your cards? Open invitation. Open invitation. Steve, what's up? Hit the like button. Thank you very much. Ed said last night's stream was a bit past my bedtime. Hell, it was past my bedtime. Hell, I couldn't even make it to Herman's stream the other night. Looking forward to checking it out later today. Thank you. I'll have Hobby Hotline. That's on my to watch. I think my friend Uncle Rich was on Hobby Hotline last night, so I'll have to tune in, watch the replay this morning. Raphael, what's up? Good morning. Justin says funny. Let's see. Where are we at? Let's see. Oh, I see John is in the house. Card Hobbyist says it was interesting watching last night's chat and seeing all the questions that have been answered on Bo's morning show 100 times over. Let's get the morning show syndicated to the masses. What was really cool about last night's show was I went upstairs, talked to my wife. My wife still, I don't know if I said this, but my wife had tested positive for COVID. She's like 3 days behind me. So she still has a couple more days of recovery. I'm still like not, like, I don't feel 100%. Like, and I think I think it's a mind game at this point. Although I am a little, like, I'm blowing snot out of my nose still. So she's still a little under the weather. I'm kind of out of it. I think it's just in my head at this point, literally and figuratively. I went upstairs, checked on her, just kind of shared, what we talked about and all that stuff. And then, so after that, I looked and I think I gained like 15, like right after the show, by whatever time it was, 10 o'clock, 10:15, I gained like 15 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I'm like, yes. And then I looked at my eBay store and I just know for certain because I saw his name pop up in our chat last night. Bought like $20 worth of cards out of my eBay store. And I'm like, hey, that was like a direct hit. So that's really cool. And I mentioned, I don't even know if I talked about it on air, and I may have touched on it yesterday. It was like supposed to be my main topic. You know how that rolls on Hobby Evolution. Sometimes we don't even scaling your business. We're still waiting for that episode. I had listed on today's Wednesday, Monday, I listed 100 junk wax rookies. We're talking Bo Jackson, Ripken, Boggs, Gwynn, those types of players. Listed about 100. In fact, I think it was like 90. Within 12 hours, 30, we'll call it 90, 30 of 90, a third had sold. And I sold a bunch more last night. So I think of those, and I have a 4-row box. It's like those things are just moving. If you price them accordingly, if you list it, they will buy. So those junk wax rookies, and Ty and I joked like before we went on live last night, it's almost like you don't want to share that information because there's so many of those cards out there. But they sell. It's like hotcakes. Where did that term come from? They're selling like hotcakes. Let's see. What's in Bo's Google chat today? Hodgenville, Kentucky, and hotcakes. Selling like hotcakes. That's because I say it all the time and I have no idea what it means. What does selling like hotcakes mean? To be sold in large numbers quickly. I know, but where did it come from? What's the origin story? Selling like hotcakes origin. I bet somebody in the chat's already typed it out. According to the American Heritage Dictionary of Idioms, a Wikipedia, Andrew loves the Wikipedia redirects, and this archived New York Times recipe, a hotcake is essentially just a pancake, and we all love pancakes. There was a time I hated pancakes. I got really sick, like the flu. I was like 6 years old, and I went camping with my brother and his girlfriend at the time, and I got the flu. My brother's girlfriend, the poor girl, she's a lady now, an older lady now. She probably wouldn't want me to say that. She's not my sister-in-law. It's okay. She made pancakes, but I had the flu, and that was my last meal before I got sick. And I blamed it as a 6-year-old on my brother's girlfriend's pancakes. That's what she said. So I didn't eat pancakes for like 5 years. And 5 years when you're like 6, 7, 8, that's like most of your life. Now I love pancakes. So that had nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but an aside, pancakes, now I love them, used to hate them. The phrase selling like hotcakes originated in the 1800s when simple cornmeal versions were sold at church bake sales and snapped up by the congregation before they went cold. So they're selling like hotcakes. Didn't have a chance to get cold. There you go. 1800s, church congregations, they were hungry for hot pancakes. They didn't get cold. I use that term all the time, and I didn't know the origin. Why do we say selling like hotcakes? Now we know the answer. Let's see. Ed says that was a fun conversation to be a part of. It was great. It was great to tune into that, talking about the 73 Topps baseball set. And that's his next target, Andrew says. Mike is with us from Canada. What's happening? Diego, what is up? Diego fears fleas. Was it a typo? Oh, never mind. Fees, yes. You can fear fleas, but don't fear fees. Steve says, yes, I'm the 10.3%. All right. Well, hey, all are welcome. All are welcome. Let's see. Good morning, Diego. What's up? Flipping Sports Guy, what's up? Who cares? Take my fees. Those fees means I brought in more money. Exactly. And that's what I put in the description. The more fees I spend, it's kind of like taxes. Like, it's a way of life. Like, we just have to accept it. We can try to fight it, but just accept it. Don't waste your time and energy. The more taxes, and my best friend is a financial advisor, and he says, the thing is, the more taxes you pay means the more money you make. You want to pay more taxes. It's actually a good thing. Now, taxes itself are not good. We want to avoid paying taxes. That's why we hire accountants to do the dirty work and do all that work to avoid the fees. So hire an accountant to avoid the fees, at least when it comes to taxes. Other fees we don't fear because the more fees, hopefully, the more fees we spend, if we're wise, the more money we make. The more eBay fees, the more eBay final value fees. We're not going to talk about transaction fees. Don't get me on that soapbox. The more final value fees we spend with eBay means the more sales. The more sales means hopefully the more money. And of course, it depends on your buy-in. If you're buying cards for $5 and selling them for $3, well, sucks. Andrew hates fleas and ticks and mosquitoes and flies. I do too. Although I welcome the first fly because it means it's hot, or it typically. Fleas, we hate fleas. Mosquitoes, it's kind of like mosquitoes. It's like the first mow of the season. I look forward to it. Kind of like the first mosquito. And then it's like, okay, the second and the 1,000th I'm done with. But it means it's not freaking cold anymore. It means it's hot and humid and summery. We like it. John says, I sell more vintage non-sports than anything by far. And that's what's awesome. What's up, John? That's what's awesome. There's so many ways to make a buck. Just in cards. Doesn't even have to be sports cards. It can be non-sports, vintage non-sports, Pokemon, Magic, all of that stuff. Card Hobbyist says, if you had a bunch of cases of top loaders during the pandemic, you could have made some bank. Ain't that the truth? I finally put my supply order in. Hopefully I get it before the Madison Card Show. By the way, this Saturday, Sheraton Hotel, John Nolan Drive. I think I'm out of coffee. Take a drink. We drink when we say John Nolan Drive. Because I've got, my buddy Sheena needs some penny sleeves. So I looks like my tracking. Columbia Hobby, by the way, boom, boom. Love it. Go to Columbia Hobby. They have great deals on supplies. I ordered top loaders, card savers, and penny sleeves. The top loaders I'm just going to sell because I have a wholesale account. So, it's not like I'm not making bank. I'm certainly not making bank selling supplies. Very slim margins. But hey, make a few extra bucks here and there. And you can always use top loaders and card savers. So card savers for my eBay store, top loaders to sell. And then also I like having top loaders because I do use top loaders on like usually high-end cards. Higher for me, a high-end card's like $20 by the way. So like $20 and up. I'll anything I send in a bubble mailer from now on, as a single, I'm going top loader because do I have the cards next to me? I shipped out some, I think they were Heritage Miners, and they were like, it was like a $75 sale on 3 cards. And it looked like somebody took the bubble mailer and just like went like this. They were like just freaking creased. So, in a top loader, based on how I think it would have cracked the top loader. The pressure that was to make these creases, it would have cracked and it would have creased the card anyway, even in a top loader. But that's annoying. So, but shit happens. Where are we at? Victor, what's happening? Let's see. Victor also enjoyed the conversation by John and Ed, which we're talking about that conversation. Let's plug it. Let's see. That's 70s Card Show. By the way, if you're not subscribed to John, his channel is freaking awesome. And we got to get him some more subscribers. Here it is. Let's see. Copy link. So check out John and Ed's conversation. There it is in the chat. They're talking about the 1973 top set, and John does just looking at his channel right now. He talked about 73 tops with Ed. He talked about 77 tops with Dean Gearhart, 76 tops football. He had a conversation with our friend Andrew about, by the way, Andrew's Page and Deanie Bean in the chat about 1975 tops. He's got some shorts. John's got shorts. He wears pants sometimes. John, I didn't see these shorts. By the way, I love the Larry Fritsch cards, the 1-year winners, because there's a lot of Cubs in those sets that didn't have any cards. I love those sets. John has a short on the Fritsch 1-year winners. 85 Renata Galasso, Pete Rose, 80 tops Burger King, 58 tops TV Westerns. So check out John's channel. It's he just does awesome stuff, awesome content. Especially if you love, I mean, I'm not like, I love the 70s, but I wasn't even around in the 70s, but I enjoy the 70s. If you were living the 70s, you'll certainly love diving back into that decade. Kyle says lots of ways to run a business. If you work hard and make your opportunities successful, success seems to follow. Absolutely. And that's something that Ty mentioned last night. It's like, and it's not something that, was pulled out of thin air this week, but your money comes on the buying side. It's kind of like, and I mean, that's a saying that's been said. I don't know who, Rich Klein can probably answer this. I think somebody else can help me out here. I think Al Rose and Mr. Mint may have been the first to make it a mainstream. I'm sure he didn't invent. I'm sure it's been something that has been said for centuries. But you make your money on the buying side. And there's so much truth to that. Now, it's kind of like the same analogy in football where defense wins the game. Yes, but if you don't have an offense, if you can't score a touchdown offensively, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So, yes, defense wins games, but you also have to have a capable offense, kind of like in sales. Yes, you're going to win a deal. You're going to make your money on the buying side, but if you don't have the skills to make the sale, it's all for naught. So you have to have both skills. If you obtain both skills, you're going to see the buying side where that's where the money is made. But they go hand in hand. You have to have both skills to have a successful sale. Cooter, what's up? Good morning. Harlan says the lack of Babe Ruth on your list makes it wrong. Oh, man. Harlan, you're going to be mad at me if I shared my take on Babe Ruth. But I will say, have you seen a picture of Babe Ruth without his shirt on? It's like, this is not the greatest baseball player of all time. But if you compare him to his contemporaries, yes. And that's what makes these arguments and discussions, I should say discussions, arguments, I don't like that word, because they are discussions. And while I have my thoughts and opinions and they may differ from others, they're not wrong. But I would say, I don't know. I don't want to go down that because it's the what ifs. It's the what ifs. But compared to his contemporaries, yeah, you can put Babe Ruth. He's on my short list. I'll just say that Babe Ruth is on my short list. But remember that short list is getting longer by the longer by the minute. Flipping Sports Guy says Ricky Henderson was 100% slept on. All people think of is the steals. Absolutely. I mean, you look at what he did from that leadoff spot in the lineup, and he was a home run hitter. Let's see. Let's go to Baseball Reference, one of my favorite all-time websites. I mean, he had the longevity. He was born in Chicago. He was an MVP, Silver Slugger, Gold Glove winner, Ricky frickin' Henderson. Look at home runs. How many home runs did he? I guess he wasn't as big of a home run hitter as I thought. He didn't scratch. He almost scratched 300 home runs. I thought Ricky Henderson was more of a power hitter. Now, I think he does hold the record for leadoff home runs, or was that recently broken? I think at one time, or still currently, he held the home run record for leadoff hitters. But he never hit 30 home runs in a season. He nearly touched it in 1990 and 1986 with 28 home runs, and he hit 24 in 1985. So I thought he had more home runs in his career. Now, he had 297 home runs in his career. Remember, his career also lasted 25 years, but those last 5 years, he was in his 40s, or last 4 years. Last 5 years, he was in his 40s. And he only hit in his last 5 seasons, he only hit 16, 28, 35 home runs in his last, so 7 home runs a year in his last 5 years. But he was also 40 to 44 years old. I'm 40 years old right now, and my back hurts when I get out of the recliner. So there. Rick McCarty, Roberto Clemente. That was a name that came up on many people's lists of the all-time greatest baseball players. Zach and Porter says Ricky Henderson could do it all. Defense lacked but improved. The goal of the game is to score runs. Guy generated runs all day, every day. Yeah, and he's. Does he hold the career record in runs? I think he does. 2,295. I think he holds the record in. I think he does. And I think by a large margin, the stolen base record. Ricky loves Ricky. Ed says, my 3 would be Willie, Ted, and Junior, but that is an extremely subjective topic. Absolutely, for sure. There's dozens of players who could be in consideration for that list. And as I've talked about it, my list continues to grow. John says, Williams, DiMaggio, 0 help in their lineups. Mays had protection, lots of it. Cooter says Ted Williams' focus while fielding was thinking about hitting. John says DiMaggio is probably the most overlooked player by recent generations. And I would agree with that because I personally overlooked DiMaggio. I never think of Joe DiMaggio. And the reason I think I overlooked Joe DiMaggio is because when we, and I say we as just kind of collectively, when I think of Joe, like the Yankee, when I think of the classic all-time Yankees, Joe DiMaggio's probably like barely in my top 5 just of guys I think about. When I think about Yankees, I'm like, oh, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle. Name 5 Yankees, like 5 of the all-time greatest Yankees. DiMaggio's probably not going to be in my top 5. Like, oh, I'm going to say, and it's not, and it is, it's overlooking Joe DiMaggio. But I think in the era, and I think of era, I mean, I think of 1960s back. I'm saying Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. Hell, I'm probably throwing Yogi Berra out there just because of his quotes. DiMaggio is going to be in my top 5, like if I go pre-60s. But if I'm thinking like all-time Yankees, I'm going to throw Derek Jeter out there. I'm probably, just because of my age, I'm like, oh, Don Mattingly was a great Yankee. And DiMaggio is just overlooked. And I agree. John is exactly right. Joe DiMaggio is overlooked by recent generations. And I think it's because there were other great Yankees that overshadowed him in that era. Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth. And I understand he didn't play among those, but there were so many great Yankees. Just look at how many jersey numbers. You have to count how many jersey numbers are not retired by the Yankees at this point, because so many are. But I agree, Joe DiMaggio definitely overlooked. And I'm guilty of overlooking Joe DiMaggio. Let's see. Kyle says, I put Williams just because he fought war in his prime. His numbers would be insane if he hadn't served. Steve says, most people have a short list of top players. I have a top list of short players. Hey, there you go. But DJ Local, let's make a what if list. That actually would be fun. What if, and you could throw injuries, death, war. John says Williams OBP is not a what if. Cooter says Mays missed almost 2 seasons in the Army. Card Hobby says Ted Williams got on base close to 50% of the time. Low Roller Scratcher in the house. He sold 2 items on ComC. Jayhawk Farm, what's up? Good morning. I found your store and Ty store complement each other very well, especially for a new collector. You get 5 times the purchases from me, though. Yes. By the way, your package came out, I think shipped out yesterday. And I believe, Kyle, it all went in one package. And I did. It was there. I don't know if Ken is watching, but Ken in Chicago, there was a lot of transactions, and I think they were bought at different times, different days. So I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, by the way, I think his actually went out in 2 packages because he ordered a whole bunch of cards. So, Kyle, I think yours are going to be in one package. They shipped out yesterday, so I do apologize for the delay. Flipping Sports Guy says, numbers don't lie. When you pick the numbers that tell the story you want, that is true. Let's see. Slop singles are great for the average, but they don't put you on the greatest list. I agree with that. Can't pull out juice numbers when most of the league was doing it. That was his era of play, and that's another great point. I mean, that's another, like, it's more of a who wasn't on the juice in that era of the 90s than who was. John says, I like to go by 162 game average per BBR. Let's see. Thanks for a great show with Ty last night. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ricky stats will be held in higher esteem, not that the base paths are 2 inches short. I think the pickoff rule will have a bigger effect on steals than the base size. I think neither matters, says John. Let's see. Regardless of steals, managers have to have a philosophical change. That's a great point. Let's see. John says, just like baseball, doesn't matter. Modern baseball doesn't matter. Where are we at? That's when we know. When I start saying where are we at, that means we're having a great chat. Where are we at in the chat? Let's see. Was Wander on the list? He's on my short list. Let's see. T206 Kid says, live in Louisville now. Louisville, originally from New Jersey. I actually know Mark Marinello. Very cool. The United Federation of Planets. Card Hobbyist says, oh, we're on my family tree. With 27 kids, he probably died from exhaustion. I know, right? And I think that could be exaggerated. Let's go back to Curly Bill, and I can share the story. Let's catch up on the chat, and I'll Curly Bill Thompson. Let's see. I don't know. Is it on Ancestry? I think Find a Grave, and there's a link. So let's get into the chat. We can talk about Curly Bill at the end of the show. TD Sports Cards. What's happening? Good morning to you. By the way, I think your chippers, you ordered Chipper Jones. Those will be shipped out today. 608 Cody wants to know, is it Saturday yet? By the way, another shameless plug. Madison Card Show this Saturday. Sheraton Hotel on John Nolan Drive. 125 dealer tables. Sold out show. I had one of the dealers that's on I have a waiting list. One of my dealers that's on the waiting list messaged me yesterday. He goes, hey, I just want to know how far down on the waiting list or how close I am to potentially getting a table. And I said, there's about 10 ahead of you. And he goes, okay, that's good to know that I'll be at the show as a buyer and not a dealer. So a long waiting list. And like I mentioned the other day, 29 dealers this month that did not set up in January. So if you were at the January show, don't expect to see a lot of the same stuff. There's going to be a lot of new dealers that were not at the show. I think 9 first-time dealers to the Madison Card Show this month. So there's going to be a lot of new stuff to see. So make sure to hit up the Sheraton Hotel this Saturday for the Madison Card Show. Cooter says the image of you was reversed on the YouTube stream. It was driving me nuts. I started questioning my entire existence. I didn't realize that. I think it was, for me, it was normal, but I guess when it's projected out to YouTube, it was backwards, or what did you say? Reversed. Let's see. Minneapolis Kid says, I like the old saying, I'd bet dollars to donuts because it used to mean like 20 to 1. Now it's not even 1 to 1. That's another saying. I had no idea. I like it. Andrew says, Bo read the next wiki like the male school teacher, Mr. Yassimi. Yeah. I don't get that reference. Mark says, good morning. There's Mark Marinello. Just got back from getting my truck serviced. Love John's episode with Ed. 1973 was the first set I collected. Very cool. That's actually, and I say this, and it depends. It depends on the day. 73 might be my favorite set of the 70s. I just love, and I've got some 73s right here. Here's Tom McCraw. Very off-centered, but it's just a beautiful card. We're just going to stop and appreciate 1973 Topps. Look at this. And I love some of the images. 73 Topps has my favorite images. I will say that. And I think that's why I like the 73 Topps set the most of the decade. Look at that chain link fence behind Bart Johnson on this White Sox card. A card that I don't have because I sell it as soon as I get it is the Luis Alvarado. And I think Ed and John mentioned that. I like this. It's just a cool image. And I like the 410 in the background on Ron Reed. By the way, all of these singles are in my eBay store for $1.50 with free shipping. The link to my eBay store is in the description, so you can pick these up. If you buy 7 or more, you'll get 25% off. So I think that comes out to be, what, $1.13? Here's more chain link fence behind Bruce Del Canton of the Kansas City Royals. I like this. I think this meant it was opening day. John and Ed can correct me. Ramon Hernandez, and I say this was taken on opening day because look at the red, white, and blue flags. And I think those are opening day flags. I could be wrong. What else do we have? What are some of the other good photos? Ooh, more fences. John Edwards has a fence behind him. Look at that. And you've got just random guys in the background. 73 tops, man. Freaking love it. Awesome set. Then you've got the airbrushed. Look at Wayne Twitchell's hat. You know that's an airbrush job. Oh, I've still got Juan. Nobody's bought Juan Marichal. Maybe I have it overpriced. Look at that. It's such a great image. Juan Marichal. You've got, it looks like that's, I thought it was a Kansas City Royal, but I don't know who that is. But just such a good image. You have the boyhood stars like Jim Palmer. I love that little subset. Just such a cool set. 73 tops. I wanted to take a moment and appreciate this. This is all the 73s I have left. And I had about this many because I bought like 300 out of a local auction in a lot. Let's see. Mark says T206 Kid is a dedicated collector and fan. That's very cool. James wants me to bring some supplies to Janesville. You got it. I'll bring penny sleeves and top loaders. I'm going to keep the card savers all to myself. So I'll bring top loaders and penny sleeves. Let's see. Harlan says, I like the flip them out to music shorts. Mark says, John and I are the same age and have similar collecting history. He nails it. Check out his channel. Let's see. Everybody agrees. Let's see. Harlan says, how can you not go with Babe? Mark says, for us old guys on this date in 1980, the United States Olympic hockey team shocked the world. Card Hobbyist says, my theory is Babe Ruth didn't like running, so he figured out launch angle before everyone else. Hey, that's a good thought. John says, Babe Ruth had more inside the park homers than Ricky Henderson. Close your eyes and ponder that. And I think to that, what were ballpark dimensions when Babe Ruth played? I mean, they were, but that also lends credence to Babe Ruth being a great, I mean, look at how far the fences were. And Babe Ruth hit how many home runs? So, yeah, he had more inside the park homers because the field dimensions were so much bigger. But look at how many outside the park home runs. So I'm just making my own argument that Babe Ruth should be in my top 3. Andrew says, Ricky knows Ricky is the greatest of all time. Cooter thanks Mark. Now I feel old. I remember sitting. Let me, Cooter, let me make you feel even older. I was not even born yet on this day in 1980. In fact, I had not even been I was not even in the process of being born yet. So I'll make you feel a little older. Harlan says, I knoweth not who it hath said, but you maketh wage at which hour thee buyeth, not selleth. Some English guy. Yes. It's probably that saying has been around since the dawn of time. Ricky played indie ball with the Newark team after MLB. Ricky was the man. I have more appreciation for Ricky. The older I get, the more now that I'm like Ricky Henderson's age during the twilight of his career, I have even more appreciation that this guy at age 40 still had 5 years left of Major League Baseball and then Indie League Baseball. Amazing. Let's see. John says Joe DiMaggio won 9 rings. Red Sox are your 1967 world champions. Then Ed, talking about Tony C. That there's another injury with Tony C. Surprised Curly Bill had any curlies left. Yeah. Let's see. Your middle school gym teacher, you imitate. That to me sounds like a gangster. Bah, that's Mr. Bosman, my high school PE teacher, Jack Mr. Bosman with the Bosy sides. Colombia. We're going to talk about South America today. We're going to talk about Colombia. And what was the other one? Colombia was the one we mocked the most, but of course we mocked it like with it not within 3 miles of Mr. Bosman because he would freaking rip our necks off with his muscle hands. Let's see. I still live in fear that he's going to find my YouTube channel and hear me mock him, and come and rip my head from my shoulders with his bare hands. The 1980 semis at Lake Placid was like everyone's team winning the Super Bowl at one time. It was that big of an event. So let's look up Curly Bill. So Curly Bill was born in 1808 in LaRue County, Kentucky. Well, he died in LaRue County. He's buried. I don't know if this means anything to our friend Tony, T206 collector. He's buried in the Sand Lick Cemetery. Now, that's a Kentucky name. Sand Lick Cemetery in Coakley, Kentucky. That's in Greene County. Let's see. Oh, so this, I thought I was wrong. So, or maybe Edward, I thought my ancestors landed in North Carolina and then went to Kentucky. So apparently, based on his obituary, he was born in Virginia and then went to Kentucky. So maybe they went North Carolina to Virginia to Kentucky. Anyway, Curly Bill. Let's see. So this is William C. Thompson became known as Curly Bill. This is where it gets. He married twice, but had 5 batches of children in parentheses that we know of. He married Lydia Wood in Greene County. They had 13 children. 13 children with one of his wives. He met Louisa, never married. They were the parents of Alexander. Alexander married somebody. So now we're at 14 kids for Curly Bill. He met Marianne Perkins, never married. She died on Christmas Day in a train wreck. They had 6 children together. So now we're at 20 children by Curly Bill. He has fathered 20 children, 2 out of wedlock at this point. Then he met Cinderella Howell. They never married. This frickin' a-hole. They had 6 children. Now we're at 26 children by Curly Bill. 3 out of 3 mothers out of wedlock. He finally got back on the wagon and married again. And we're at 26 children. He married Martha Houston. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. And they had 2 children. So 28. He had that we know of. Curly Bill had 28 children by 5 ladies of the night. 3 of them were, apparently. Curly Bill was a member of the Home Guard. He was murdered by rebel guerrillas. And this is one of the stories that I've heard, or I'm reading. This is from Find a Grave. Curly Bill was a member of the Home Guard. He was murdered by rebel guerrillas at his home in Greene County. Now, a family oral history says that America, that's his daughter, one of my great-great-great-grandmothers, family oral history says that America, or maybe she wouldn't be my great-grandmother. I don't think my lineage comes down to America. I think it's one of his other 28 children. Anyway, family oral history says that America saw the murder and that Curly was shot in the back while running for cover. They also said that Curly Bill had his gun with him at the time. I guess that he planned to fight back. It was also said that Curly Bill was widely known for his boxing skills. I didn't receive that trait. And that strangers would sometimes, unfortunately, I didn't receive the trait of birthing 28 or fathering 28 children, would sometimes challenge him to fight. A diary account by Bloyd. Bloyd says that it was Captain Marion and his men that killed Curly Bill. Marion was killed by Union cavalry only a few weeks after Curly's murder. Another related story, and this is the one that is told most of the time. Curly Bill fought against the Confederate guerrillas who found him in his living room. He had married Martha Houston after Lydia's death, and they had two small children. He had one of these children, America Thompson, on his lap when he looked out the window and saw the guerrillas coming. Not those guerrillas, but Confederate guerrillas. He tried to get away by going through the back, but they caught up and shot him. They then went up and shot him 2 or 3 more times, killed his horses, and burned the barn. Well, freaking a-holes. One of the guerrillas, who had gone the other way around the house, got in the line of fire, and he was killed also. They say they took a goods box, broke the dead guerrilla's arms and legs, and wadded him in there, and he's buried by the side of the road up there near the Ward's store. Curly Bill's great-granddaughter, Beatrice Thompson Smith, recalled with shivers that when she and her friends walked to school, they always walked on the other side of the road when they passed the guerrilla's grave. That was in the early 1900s. So, like most legendary stories, the story of Curly Bill's death tends to vary in the manner told. In the Thompson book by William Smith, there are different stories about how the Confederate guerrilla was killed, once by being in the line of fire, second by begging for Curly's life. Curly Bill, the man slut, fathered 28 children, and he is my great-great-great-great-grandfather. I don't know how many greats are in there. Apparently, he wasn't that great. Well, he was great at one thing. He was great at one thing. Let's see. He was very skilled at one thing. Shane says, one thing I have noticed flipping my case of new Topps hobby, a lot more eyeballs on my store, and my sales for all my other cards are way up with bulk discounts. Absolutely. That's why I love buying new product. What a great transition. Curly Bill fathering 28 children to flipping new Topps hobby. That's what we do on Hobby Evolution. Yes. Especially at release, when you throw those up, you're going to get a ton of new views. That's why I like opening new product, especially at release, because it's going to bring new eyeballs to my store, and some of my other inventory is going to get sold. You're also going to see an uptick in, if you run a big, like I run those 50% sales about once every 6 weeks or so, and I'll see an uptick in sales of stagnant inventory, which is kind of the purpose of running those sales. Card Hobbyist says, could have been Big Bone Lick, Kentucky. New hoodie Wednesday. Yeah. So this is a new hoodie. This is the first time I've worn it. This I pulled out of a grab bag at the Cubs convention. A grab bag is basically a reusable bag that they just stuff full of Cubs stadium giveaways. So this was in there, and it's like, hey, this might fit me, and it does. So I'm wearing it. Hoodie Wednesday. And it's a light hoodie, so it's a very like spring-like hoodie. It's not like a heavy hoodie. So I kept this. I kept a fanny pack. I think I'm actually going to use the fanny pack at spring training. Normally, I'm not a fanny pack guy, but now that I'm 40 and I don't give a shit anymore, I'm going to rock a damn fanny pack. I don't care. Pick on me. Call me a nerd. I'm going to wear that fanny pack with pride. And I kept a bobblehead. And there was a lot of other stuff that I just kind of sold randomly. John says, this guy had more kids than Sean Kemp. He did. That's a fact. He did. Cooter says, Bo, the word you were looking for was conceived. Thank you. That is the word I was looking for. Yes, I was not even conceived on this day in 1980. Curly Bill had some swimmers. Yes, he did. 28 effing kids. Jesus H. You would have almost certainly come down from one of his male children since you have his surname. Yes, that's a great point, Harlan. Yes. Yes. I would have come from one of his sons, the Thompson folk. And I'm not sure. I'm trying to, I have to sift through 28 freaking names. Who did I, let's see. Lydia. I think actually his first wife would have been the mother of one of my great grandfathers. Let's see. It wasn't Alexander. Oh, wait, no. Let's see. It doesn't even list his kids with Lydia, but Lydia would be my great grandmother. So it was from his first marriage, whoever was one of his sons with Lydia Wood. Let's see. I bet he was on the couch. Harlan, yes, you nailed it. I bet he was on the couch with America Thompson. Curly Bill, Curly Bill dealt in bulk. Hey, that's where I get it. Fortunately, it wasn't fathering children, it was buying baseball cards. Let's see. Bruce says, did you open your other hobby box? Yeah. So I opened all my Tops boxes. I opened 2 hobby boxes and my jumbo box. And most of the everything sold. I haven't done a inventory of what actually. I think the only hits that I haven't sold, I actually went through a pile to look for inserts. And I found a Cal Mitchell rookie advanced stats that I need to list. There's a Leover Piguero that I had overpriced. I dropped the price on a lot of these that haven't sold. But I mean, once you're like 4 or 5 days in after release, it's hard to move flagship singles. So I have a Leover Piguero rookie gold. I have an Albert Almora advanced stats that haven't sold, and then some other random inserts that have not sold. John says, pushing back from ORD, running from your lovely weather. Yeah, so we've got some snow on the ground. We got some snow last night. I think we're supposed to get like 3 to 5 inches today. Jenny says, oh, you didn't open a hobby box on Hobby Evolution. No, I was freaking sick as hell. I didn't even enjoy, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't even enjoy opening those boxes because I felt like shit. So yeah, I opened all my hobby boxes when I was down with the COVID last week. So I opened the first hobby box on, I think I got them on Tuesday. So I opened the first hobby box on Tuesday. And then I opened the other 2 boxes I bought on Wednesday. So, and I don't even know when Topps Heritage releases. I don't, and this might be the way Fanatics runs things, where they don't like announce pre-order dates until like a couple weeks out. Topps Heritage. I don't think Blowout has a pre-sale available. No. Which usually Topps Heritage is the second like mainstream release after flagship. And it typically, I think it came out last year right around my trip to spring training, though I went to spring training because we had the freaking lockout last year toward the end of March. This year I'm going at the beginning of March, March 7th. My wife said, last night I was just kind of going through my week, and I'm like, the Madison card shows this Saturday. I'm like, oh, I don't think I told you. And I fail to put things in our joint calendar. I'm like, I'm doing a show in Janesville on Sunday. And she's like, are you going to be okay? Like, are you going to be okay to do 2 shows? Like, after being couch ridden for a week? I'm like, yeah, I'll be good. So, and I'm like, and then I don't go to spring training until March 7th. And she's like, that's a week and a half away. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's 13 days. That's 2 weeks away. So I'm like, oh yeah, February's that short month. Let's see. Cooter says, John flies a lot when he uses airport codes, right? My favorite all time airport code is Sioux City, Iowa. And the airport code matches the airport. SUX. Sucks is the airport code for Sioux City, Iowa. We, when I was working in the athletics department, we chartered in when we played. It must have been the University of South Dakota in Vermilion, beautiful Vermilion, South Dakota, home of the Coyotes, not the Coyotes, home of the Coyotes. So we flew into Sioux City, Iowa. Bob, my buddy Bob, what's happening? Jenny wants to know, my wife is, she's doing better, but she's still sick. She's like she basically has the exact same symptoms I had. So I can like tell you, so she's basically on set. This is where she's at in COVID. She's on my Saturday, where I was like, actually Saturday, I felt like I was super tired because I felt better on Friday, and I felt better on Friday, and I like shipped all day Friday. And I think it burned me out just from like my body fighting COVID for several days and then getting back and doing more than I probably should have. I was exhausted on Saturday. So we'll see if that, I know she did some work. She closed like with COVID, she closed like $2.5 million in deals on the couch with COVID. I sold a bunch of $1.50 cards on eBay. That's why she's the breadwinner. Sucks. Smells like a slaughterhouse. John says he flew from hell to sin a few years back. Hey, that's a good one. So hell. I don't even know. I'm gonna have to go. Let's see if I can. I'm thinking Helsinki, uh, Singapore. I don't know what the hell is hell. What the hell? Hell airport. Helsinki. Okay. Now I'm probably way off on sin. Is it sin? Is sin Singapore? Helsinki to Singapore? Is that correct? That's what Google tells me. But I'm gonna confer with John. John, was that Helsinki to Singapore? Harlan says most go the other way, right? Send to hell. What is your latest hit on the Goodwill pallet? I'm done, buddy. The pallet has been actually no, that's incorrect. I still have two of those like 100 pound, two of those 100 pound boxes. Monday night while I watched Herman stream, I had to like unload because I can't lift it. It's too heavy for me. I'm just a weakling, and carry it all the way downstairs. I think if I was at the new house where I could just back in, and I have stairs that go directly down into my card room, I would just like push the box down the stairs slowly. Oh, oh, oh. Whereas here, I have to walk up like 5 steps to get into the house from the garage, and then I have to walk across the house to get to the stairs to go to the basement. I have stairs to go down to the basement, and that's too heavy for me. But I think that's going to be all common. So low roller, the Goodwill pallet is completely. I know you're going to ask me like 7 more times. So I'm going to tell you today, and the next 7 times you ask, the hits. I've found all the hits. No more hits in the Goodwill pallet until the next one. Did that as well. Helsinki to Singapore. Finnair served blueberry juice, by the way. Interesting. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. Don't fear fees. Did we even talk about fees today? I don't think we did. It seems like when I have like a topic that like scaling your business, fees, whatever the topic was yesterday, we don't even touch it, which is okay. We had a lot of fun in the chat. We learned about Curly Bill and his 28 kids. And we talked about other things. We talked about airport codes. So thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning. By the way, if today is your trash day, it's Wednesday. Get that trash to the curb. Fortunately, mine's already out there. This is the big one. This is the key recycle week. So I had to get both bins out to the curb last night. So like, subscribe, take your trash out. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central. That's it. See ya.